Last week, we stretched a leg at Kings Billabong, found some history and adventure at Wentworth, and headed northeast from Mildura for the open plains of Outback, New South Wales. This week, we explore the archaeological wonders of Mungo National Park and push further north for the legendary Tolarno Station. This is part 4 of our 5-part series exploring the Mallee, Mildura and beyond.
Your 4x4 is presented by Austrac Campers, Trek Hardware 4x4, ARB 4x4 Accessories, Clearview Accessories, Piranha, Nava, My Coolman, Cooper and Boss Aluminium. Mark, what does Jack think of this Outback area?
Look, I think Jack enjoys the four-wheel driving side of it, and when we come out here, it's more about the destination. He loves getting out once we get to these places to be able to get out there and actually have a bit of a walk around and take in some of the views. Always loves looking for animals and other little bits and pieces to see what takes his fancy.
So we're lucky enough to have Phill accompany us and take us on a tour of the Great Wall of China, which was amazing. When I heard Great Wall of China, I was a little bit confused because we were in New South Wales, but it did make sense. As you're coming up to it, you see on the horizon, it does look like the Great Wall of China.
Yeah, it was fantastic. When you see it from here, it looks really like a huge wall. When you come closer, you really then see what the guy told us. It's a huge sand dune.
We were allowed to go further than the barriers.
We have a lot of these sensitive areas, and that's why when you come onto the Wall of China, we have a gate that only allows people past that gate with a tour operator.
To make sure you don't step on anything that's critical and very sacred to a lot of people.
Again, this is quite a large fire.
The black spots in the ground, that they meant that they were the fires on the banks of the lake. They'd catch fish, certain fish bones that we were able to find around the fire pits. It's just amazing. They've been there for thousands and thousands of years. And then we get over the crest and we see just these amazing, perfectly white sand dunes. Took a walk along the top of the sand dunes and it's just unbelievable.
Mungo National Park was created in 1979. It was known as Mungo Station, a working sheep farm. And the shearing shed, built in 1869, still stands.
So here we are at Mungo Station.
It's been magnificently preserved, a lot of great information. Also, it gives you a good insight as to how this industry was conducted back in the 1850s when it first commenced.
This is a very traditional style shearing shed.
Would have housed about, I think, 18 stands, so probably about 40 odd people running around this shed at any given time.
Next to the Mungo shearing shed, a far more modern shelter, the Visitor Centre, provides a glimpse into Mungo's deeper roots.
Rightio folks, it's back to the David Maria show, and we're heading out to Tolarno Station. We're lucky enough to have a guest along. Simon Christie's coming along with us on the show, and he's teamed up with the boys from Trek Hardware in Mildura, and he's driving the Mighty Ranger. Hope you join us over the next few days and we'll show you what it's all about. On the transit to Tolarno Station, Mark said over the UHF that he heard a rattling noise, something was loose. In that situation, radio to the whole convoy, let the leader pull everyone over, get into a safe spot, make sure there's no oncoming traffic.
I just know, as we're coming over these corrugations, just starting to hear a really loose sound from underneath, like maybe a bracket or a mount has come loose.
We proceeded to look under his car.
I think there's a cover come off it.
And we found a guard that was actually tapping against the transfer case.
The transfer case bash plate here is the only thing we can see that may have been touching. We've bent it down a little bit to make a bit more space between the transfer case. The transfer case, gearbox and engine are all on rubbers. They do move a fair bit. Could have been tapping on that. The roads are pretty rough. We're travelling at a reasonable speed. Everything else looks to be good. Sway bar links, all the suspensions, shock absorbers. Exhaust isn't touching anything. Exhaust mounts look good. So fingers crossed, let's give it another crack. Let's see if it's got one of those tap, tap, taps.
I just pulled it out of the way, and then Mark proceeded to test it. That was all good.
Yeah, quick run up and down the road, that actually seems to have knocked it off. So hopefully it was just that panel maybe bouncing up and down on the high corrugations and transferring through the chassis. Happy days.
From here, our journey heads north, a couple of 100 kilometres along a dirt road, and we're heading for Tolarno Station for the evening.
Looking forward to that. It makes a long day, but certainly when you see vision like we've seen out here today, the natural wonders of this country, bring on Tolarno Station.
Once we left Mungo, the drive out to Tilano was just exactly what you'd think of a typical outback road. Do you remember the name of the station? Tilano?
Tolarno Station.
Can't see anything yet.
Because there's so much dust. Because we're a very dusty convoy.
Stopped in at the general store for a quick fuel up.
It's a lovely little town, a bit of an oasis before we head out to Tilano.
Towns like this are absolutely essential for the outback to keep running. People like ourselves coming through here needing to pick up fuel, basic supplies, and just to be able to know that you can travel through these places and have a bit of peace of mind.
Great little shop here, very friendly, very awesome. They were able to get some ice creams and stuff. It's 30 odd degrees, so it was great to be able to stop here.
In the middle of nowhere, and here we've got Nava.
If you were to have some issues, anything you might need, it's on display here.
You made it.
Well, finally got to Tolarno Station.
Tolarno Station sits on about 500,000 acres. It once was about 1.1 million acres.
Didn't know what to expect to get to Tolarno Station, and just the impression of how big it is.
127 kilometres from one end to the other. 250 kilometres up from Mildura, we arrived at Tolarno Station.
We're turning off. There it is, Daddy. Look.
Where?
There.
Oh.
Headed into Tolarno Station, and we got here fairly late in the afternoon.
Great to meet the owner. Robert actually brought himself up from Adelaide. You could not get a better Aussie welcome. There was a case of beer put down. Sun was setting. It was a beautiful time in the evening.
Just as well, we didn't bring them. No. One thing out here, we don't run out of beers.
Massive grin on his face, happy to see us all, and he was just passionate about this place.
It's a great honour to have you here. Thank you very, very much for making the effort. What I was thinking of doing, we can go for about a half-hour little walk around first.
Rob gave us a bit of rundown on the property and the history of the property.
There is the main house, the homestead, and then there's additional houses. Just an awesome piece of property. You can feel the history.
I don't know if you all know Burke and Wills. This house here was here when Burke and Wills came through in 1860.
It just blows my mind that it's still standing today.
Just so much information and history and knowledge that he's accumulated over the time.
When Burke and Wills came through here, riverboats were everything. It took the cost of taking a bale of wool from here to Goolwa from £10 by bullock dray to £1 by river. It really did open up Australia, but it also showed how much of a river it was.
Whilst tourism is an important part of Tolarno's future, the health of the river system is a far more critical issue.
Firstly, I'd like to pay my respects to the Barkindji Nation. This is their heritage and we respect that, and we work very closely with them. So from this juncture in time, we still call this the Darling Baaka. We're basically about 45 kilometres south of Menindee Lakes. That is where the major species of the whole Murray-Darling Basin system comes from. It's because that system allows rivers getting low, getting high. Now, the most valuable commodity on this planet is without doubt water. And the problem is the corruption in the water space is profound.
Main plight the people in the Darling Basin are facing at the moment is the water and theft of water further up the catchment.
You divert water stupidly, unsustainably, then you collapse ecosystems. I was unfortunate enough to sit with a mate about 2 years ago, and 16 million people on the planet saw us in disbelief. Talking to scientists, we're probably talking about a number of 100 million fish. It had nothing to do with nature. This is all about greed.
The Murray-Darling Basin and the Menindee Lakes is the lifeblood of Australia. This river has been killed. Part of Rob's passion is to stop that from happening.
40% of the Murray-Darling Basin used to come down this river. Now, nothing does.
It's really good to see that farmers are not just trying to destroy and plunder the land, but actually take care of it so that we have a future.
We're slowly getting the message out there, and that's why crews like yourself are coming up here and seeing firsthand what's actually happening. We're going to hopefully do some great outback journeys tomorrow. We'll go a couple hundred kilometres through Tilano. We'll show you some great sandhills, and we'll also show you how the Barkinji survived both with the river, but also when they moved on.
Waking up to kickstart today in my bunker on the banks of the Darling River to the sound of kookaburras was really fantastic. It was absolutely a pleasure to wake up to.
Today we're touring around Tolarno Station, a massive property just over the border in southern Outback New South Wales.
Rob indicated to us it's 127 kilometres from one end to the other, all on sand tracks, so a lot of maintenance.
The size of the property is just over 500,000 acres, but the topography and range of landscapes are pretty amazing.
Welcome back to day 2 of the David Maria show. The red dust is amazing, contrast against the grasses and the greens of the Mallee. It's beautiful.
The terrain changed continually, very good grazing. They've had a bit of rain this past season, so the vegetation is looking very healthy.
Red sands, green ground cover, beautiful trees, and those big blue skies that you don't get anywhere else except in the outback of Australia. The colours are magic.
I spend a lot of time in rural Australia. I spend a lot of time on stations. I really love red country. Little boy growing up in Ireland where I watched programmes on television, you'd see the flying doctors coming in their plane and landing on this mad, rich red ground. You know, you'd never see anything like that in Europe. Getting into Australia and then driving through today, it just brings back childhood memories of what we'd saw on TV. There was so much wildlife, birds, ducks coming off the swamps. Just a magic day.
It's not dry, colourless country. It's an amazing abundance of natural species, and today hopefully I'll give you a bit of a glimpse of what's out here and what the potential is.
Tolarno Station is one of those stations in Australia that's iconic with its history. This station itself is broken into segments. It's got a couple of farm managers on it. They do a fantastic job. They run goats and they run sheep.
This is a 5-stand shearing shed. Over time we'll turn into a 10-stand shearing shed, so we'll make it twice as big.
There's nothing Rob doesn't know about Tolarno Station.
Rob's been an absolute wealth of information. You can tell he's very passionate, not just about his farm and this station, but really the region. He's very passionate about the Darling, or the Darling Baaka as he refers to it. Working really strongly with the Aboriginal community, and you can tell that he's really just trying to drive change, changing what we're doing and how we're looking after our environment and the ecosystem around this area.
So Rob, what would the life have been like for the Barkinji people before white settlers came out?
Good question, Simon. They've been here the best part of 60,000 years to our knowledge. And you have to think Mungo Man is the oldest skeletal remains, and he's about 150 k's south of us. Life would have been very much relied around the seasons.
We went for a bit of a tour on the property this morning. It took us out to some sandhills. We actually saw part of the inland sea.
But I guess we just use our imagination out here, and you have to sometimes in life. But this is all calcified remains of trees and bases, and they stand up like little cities. The landscape's rather stark, but with the calcification, what's left, it's just interesting.
It is incredible to think that we're standing on ground like this where people thousands upon thousands of years before walked these same grounds.
So that's a paddy melon, one of the species out here, native species. It grows prolifically, but they're bitter and terrible and tasteless.
Just a good history lesson on what the property is going through at the moment and what it has gone through over the last 100 odd years.
A lot of sand, a lot of soft sand, but in general the tracks were in very good condition. Key thing was to maintain a safe distance.
Sorry, so bad.
The biggest thing is communication between each vehicle, making sure you let them know when you're slowing down, let them know of any obstacles you come across.
We're coming up along a bit of a washout here, guys, so just keep an eye out, it's not too deep.
And just take it all in. You're in no rush. You've got here. Just suck in the environment. Let it take you away.
Today we've gone on a tour of Tolarno Station just to get an idea of the size of the place. It's mind-boggling.
About 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon now. We've been on the road since 8 a.m. and we're still on his property. We've been travelling around and we're probably not even halfway through. We're going to do just under 300 k's today inside his property. Rob's been a great guide. He's done an amazing job. He's got so much wealth of knowledge when it comes to the history of this property. It's just awesome.
The terrain change between Mallee, saltbush, savanna plains, pine, rosewood, it continued changing. And then to top it all of a sudden the road came to an end and we were greeted with a sand dune, so it just shows you the diversity of terrain that you come across in a place so vast as this.
So today we got the opportunity to have a little bit of a play in the sand, and boy did I have some fun. So good to see everybody just get up there, really test their vehicles.
Bit of knowledge, you got to know what you're doing when you're driving on sand. It's not for beginners without having someone to teach them. But luckily, I've got you.
I wanted to test what tyres were like in the sand. They performed fantastically, but it was a great break in the middle of the day. Just have a bit of fun.
We had left our air pressure down. In the end, we let it down even further to 21. Tyres had a good grip. They did an amazing job.
Rob and his staff and the other station owners, they had lunch ready for us at one of the stations. Easy to talk to, and you just felt really welcome.
Oh, it was just amazing to meet Rob's staff. They cooked a lovely meal for us, these lamb chops and sausages, and they just welcomed us with open arms.
That's part of Rob's vision, is he wants people to come to Tolarno Station. He wants you to come out here, get in contact with him, come out, see the place.
I'd love to open up this country, Simon, to the potential it has from a tourist perspective. We thoroughly enjoy showing people the history of this country. For Australians, we really implore them to come out to see what built their country.
This is the history of Australia is still here. You don't have to go to the city, you don't have to go to a museum. This is a working museum. It's not long ago there was a paddle steamer going up and down this river taking supplies down to Melbourne. The history of that, and actually some of the remnants is still here. There's a jail still on this property. I'm going to try and put a few people in there tonight. It's incredible. The homestead's amazing. Get up, get out of your armchairs, get away from the city.
Moving forward, Tolarno Station and everything around it is now a destination. You can stay on site, you can stay in the shearing quarters. There's 52 kilometres of river. You're not going to struggle to get a camping spot. Do yourself a favour, head north, get out here and experience what it is that Tolarno Station and surrounds has to offer.
Today's my last day. I've got to head back to Queensland tomorrow, so I wish the guys all the best for the rest of the trip. Wish I could stay, but unfortunately I've got to go back.
So this is our last night at Tilano. We're looking forward to
Setting up camp,
having
some wines.
wines, because it's his birthday.
Oh,
Birthday.
mine? Oh, yeah.
And looking forward to sunset, and then hopefully wake up early in the morning and get to see the sunrise on this beautiful property.
If you get the chance, I can highly recommend coming to Tolarno Station and meeting Rob and everyone here. It's an awesome experience that you just can't buy.
He would love to see you.